Good morning. I'm Bernardo Tosco, the Entities Relator for FMA. And here with me today, we are with Mr. Kevin Naylor and Martina Fredella, my colleague, the Area Digital Marketer for FMA. We would like to introduce Mr. Kevin Naylor and ask him some questions about Future Manager Japan. Mr. Kevin Naylor, could you please introduce us Future Manager Japan and of course introduce yourself?
Okay. Yeah. Hello, everyone. Thanks very much, Bernardo and Martina, for welcoming me for this talk about global HR advisory and about Future Manager Alliance's place in that. So, as Bernardo mentioned, my name is Kevin Naylor, and I'm Vice President of Business Development at N-World Japan, but also known as FMA Japan. We're the Japan branch of the Future Manager Alliance Network. So we are basically the Japanese affiliate of this global HR advisory company, FMA, that comprises a network of the most experienced and professional specialists in talent acquisition and retention all across the world. We provide truly global HR solutions for truly global businesses.
Thank you, Mr. Kevin. If you want, Martina, you can ask the first question too.
Yes. So, Mr. Naylor, could you tell us about the typical client? So, is there any common characteristic among all the clients that you deal with? Is there a prototype of the client?
Okay, thanks very much for the question, Martina. So, I think here in Japan, we would usually be approached by two types of clients as FMA. So first, we would have perhaps non-Japanese firms with a regional presence in Asia Pacific who know N-World Japan and Future Manager Japan for our expertise and top reputation here in the Japanese market for talent retention and acquisition solutions. But these companies might approach us as Future Manager because they need help beyond Japan, perhaps in APAC or even further afield. So the other type of client that might approach us would be global or globalizing Japanese companies. So there's an increased pressure on Japan, the third largest economy in the world, to keep pace with China and then India that's moving up fast behind, and globalization is a key part of that. So these Japanese companies that are increasingly moving in that direction need a partner who understands them as Japanese companies and can support them outside of Japan with solutions that are tailored to their way of doing business. So these would be the two types of companies that would normally come to Future Manager for help. And of course, our FMA partners around the world also refer us to firms that are based outside of Japan who need specially tailored solutions for the enigmatic Japanese market. And that's our specialty.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
More than enough.
About the clients, Mr. Naylor, what is the company situation that more commonly pushes clients towards FMA?
So I think the best answer for that is that the future is here now. So any companies that want to be part of that future cannot help but be global. So despite that fact, there are almost no truly global HR solutions providers in the world that can connect the understanding of the client's local roots in their headquarters market and also their business practices, with also the expertise to deliver tailored HR solutions in the relevant markets where they're trying to grow and be successful around the world. So it's really the need for a global partner that they can trust and rely on that leads them to FMA. There are a lot of companies that call themselves global in recruitment or HR solutions, but the reality is most of them lose connections between headquarters and branch offices around the world, and they're not incentivized to operate as a true team. Luckily with FMA, we were born global, and we work that way. So I think we can provide a truly unique solution that draws, customers to us.
Thank you for the answer. It has been very, very clear.
Really interesting. Thank you. So since we know that time is extremely important, we value time of our clients in FMA, which is the business model when it comes to service activation, and what about the time necessarily for the activation and for the setup?
So I think, straight to your point, Martina, for our clients, time is always of the essence. If you've lost, a person, a key member of your staff, you need to replace them, or, if you have something new where you're, competing head to head with, other, strong companies in the market, you need to get things done quickly. So, we put all of our effort into quick response and follow-up. So from an initial inquiry from a client, we can usually arrange a first meeting with the client and then the FMA team, both the headquarters side as well as the local market side, within about 2 business days in most cases. Usually it's more the client side schedule that's more difficult for them to arrange rather than on our side. This sometimes means that some of our members somewhere around the FMA world are staying up late or waking up early, but that's a small price to pay when it comes to aligning with our clients. And then if there are no delays in getting sign off for a contract to start the searches, usually we can start work within a week. So I think speed to market is something that I've since we've joined the FMA group that I've been really impressed with, because getting these searches and these solutions started is really a challenge anywhere, I think.
Of course. Yes. Thank you.
According to these global clients, could you tell us, please, which are the countries where FMA operates actively in the world?
I'm going to actually be honest and say that I can't answer that question very well, because FMA covers the world so broadly, right? It wouldn't be worth the time to try and list up all of the markets we operate in. It's probably easier for people to check out the website for details, because we're operating on every continent. But I guess maybe in short, I can just say, if there's a market that's critical for business success, in the new global environment, then FMA is there or can support there. So closer to home for us here in APAC, we have offices in Japan, China, South Korea, India, Singapore, and most recently Australia. And then with reach that actually goes beyond those markets, because some of especially our Singapore office has a broad reach across Southeast Asia as well. So I hope that sufficiently answers the question.
Yeah, very well.
So it wouldn't be wrong to claim that you actually don't have borders, geographical limits.
Yeah. So we're switched on 24 hours a day, and we can cover pretty much every corner of the globe, although maybe not so much in Antarctica at this point, but we still haven't recognized that as a key market yet.
Yeah, I don't think so.
You will arrive there too. So, Mr. Naylor, we talk about countries, we talk about timing and business model, but what about the most common profiles that you are asked by your clients?
So I think, to be honest, that really depends on the project. So I think, as an example, recently we've been working, on a global project for one of our Japanese clients that has become independent of their Japanese parent company, and they need to establish business support and infrastructure all over the world as they become disconnected from their parent company's infrastructure. So in that case, we were looking for finance directors and/or HR directors, on 3 different continents over the last year or so. So, that would be, for that situation. However, I would say that typically, when most companies are struggling with global situations, that often means, for example, a head of business or a head of sales in a particular market that's either needs to be found to start up in that market or is struggling to deliver the desired results. So I think those would be typical both inbound to Japan, especially because Japan's a tough market to enter and really get started in, but also anywhere in the world. I think just as far as global trends go, there's a lot of emphasis on technology and people that can drive technological change, especially here in Japan. But if we start going down this rabbit hole, I could be talking for days and days about different profiles. So I hope that's good enough.
Yeah, sure. So we are mostly talking about C-levels, manager, or technical figures such as engineers and technicians.
Yep, very much so. I think, especially for FMA, I mean, managers in the title. So, generally we're dealing with people that have the greatest impact to the business, and those are the more global profiles. At the local level in most markets, it makes more sense to hire more, not spend as much money for more global talent, I think.
So we have talked about different countries, different profiles. Is there any price variation according to the country? Of course, about the profiles, but there is a price variation on countries you operate.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, pricing needs to be market specific and also adjusted to the unique requirements of the search or the solution that's being provided. I think, the very specific nature of the recruitment market in India is very, very different from that in Japan, which is very, very different from the US or from Europe. And, the appropriate pricing to make sure that, we can dedicate the right amount of resources for success in that country, but as well that takes into account the budgetary challenges or limitations that might come from headquarters. We take that into account for each market that we work in and on each search, because no two searches are created the same. So working with the client to find that right, win-win situation on pricing is, I think, a really important, part of what makes us a truly global organization.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Mr. Naylor, allow me to ask you one last question. Regarding what we have just said, what is your abroad operativity? And once again, what is the time necessary in order to apply it?
So this one's a pretty difficult question to answer, I think, Martina, because when we were talking about pricing, it's very much, it'll depend on the search, and it also will really depend on how quickly we can get to know and get that truly deep partnership with the client. Inevitably, coming to a new market, for a client will mean a need to not only hear the numbers, the statistics that define, the peculiarities of that market, for example, like things like the unemployment rate, penetration rate of LinkedIn, activation rate of candidates, things like this, but not only hearing the numbers, but also getting a feel for that. So different projects can take different amounts of time depending on the size of the pool and how flexible the client can be to balance their needs with the realities of the market. So, I mean, as far as for our operativity, I mean, again, the great thing about the global nature of FMA is that we can partner up with, the needs, for example, of our client coming from Japan, and then the realities of our partner in, for example, Singapore or China or wherever that may be, to, try to understand where the gaps or the challenges might be before we sit down with the client to put in place the strategy. But generally, the strategies we're bringing to market for our clients for these, senior leadership and management or very, niche specialist roles are around executive search type strategies, which involve, use of any existing database and networks, but really going to market mapping and then, screening, competency-based interviews by our teams on the ground, and then moving into a very closely integrated and, especially developed, interview process with the client for that, so that we can partner through and minimize the bumps and accelerate the learning process, through that search to, limit the time invested. So it's a bit of a broad answer, but does that generally hit what you were looking for?
No, it's perfect. It is perfect. So thank you very much, Mr. Naylor, for allowing us to interview you. Thank you, Bernardo, for your cooperation.
You're welcome.
And thank you to all of you that follow us today for this FMA HR Talk. I take the opportunity to invite you all to keep following us on our social media platforms and to keep following all our new contents, especially on LinkedIn. Thank you all again, and see you for the next FMA Talk.
Yep, thanks very much, Bernardo. Thanks, Martina. I hope the information that I shared is useful for you guys and for anyone out there following FMA. So I look forward to working with all of you and anybody out there in the market. So thanks.